Hello everyone, this is Prince Darji and I'll be the host of this podcast. Today we have two of my close friends, Nistha Desai and Sanskriti Puri. Nistha, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Prince, for having us here. Hello, everyone. Namaste. My name is Nishtha, and I am a master's student pursuing my master's in industrial organization psychology. Other than that, I have this YouTube channel which is based on an initiative to create a space for mental health survivors and fighters. So it's named Tranquil Porsche. I am the founder of Tranquil Porsche. We are a group, a channel, a community that is spread over Discord, Instagram, YouTube, and I have a Gmail also. So that's initially what I do. Initially how I started. Currently, I'm doing my master's, and this is a passive activity that I run in the background. Sanskriti, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Nishta. And thanks, Prince, for having me here. So I'm
It's pleasure,
Sanskriti
Monica.
and I'm doing my bachelor's in counseling psychology at the moment and just going to graduate soon. And I have my Instagram page known as Know the Psyche, which is all about psychological facts. And I do live sessions like these about mental health and different sectors of it. And that's all for now. Thank you.
Yeah, so Nistha, I have seen Sanskriti's page, Know the Psyche, and I've seen her lives. Once I binged watch all of her lives, and my daily internet was over. Yeah, and I was
I'm
like, damn,
worth
last
it.
10 minute बच गया यार. वो बाकी रह गया last के 10 minute.
I'm sure they were worth the binge.
Yeah, they were worth the you know whole internet. Yeah, so it was Geo. So I purchased a booster pack and watched the last 10 minutes. So now,
Feels like an advertisement of Geo, honestly. Let's go.
yeah, Geo pay me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Let's move on to the questions.
Definitely.
So, what is the importance of having a good mental health, and why we should not ignore it? Nista?
All right. I really like this question, even though it's a question that has been, repeatedly asked to every psychologist or every other psychiatrist that you meet, because even though it's a very common question, the emphasis of it does not reduce. So, in our country at least, mental health is not even a topic of discussion. We say that there is a increase in the awareness, or people from the psychology background, the students, the aspiring psychologists, people like Sanskriti, myself, and already established mental health professionals. We do keep talking about it. We try to use the internet as much as we can, but the scope of it drops after one or two Instagram posts, or people start talking about life coaches, or all of a sudden it just becomes a very casual word that you just throw around like that. But nobody talks about the initial initial goal, that was the very primary goal of why we started about mental health advocacy of mental health. That is because mental health is as important as physical health. It literally makes 50% of your health. Your mental health not only affects your functionality, your day-to-day functionality, but also your relationships with others and yourself. The only time that people consider going to a mental health professional is when they start seeing major and drastic, or severe changes in their life, which are usually because your mental health starts affecting your physical health. Now that becomes a very later stage. It becomes like a crisis stage when you should start or go for counseling. But if you identify these triggers, or if you make it something that is very normal to approach, or normal to adapt in your life, you won't have to wait till you reach that severe condition or critical condition that you have to rush to a psychiatrist. Mental health is important because it affects all the spheres of your life. Initially you might not be able to see it, but it does. And not just that, it also affects people around you. Many times, people who go to therapists are the ones who are troubled because of the people who don't go to a therapist. It's an inside joke. I think Sanskriti would agree, like she would know about this. The main reason that most of the people come to therapy is because people in their lives who should be going to therapy don't go to therapy. So this is why it's so important, and we should not ignore it because it affects the society as a whole. It's not an individual thing. It starts as an individual's problem, but it affects everyone around you. Over to Sanskriti.
So, Sanskriti, I had a
Yeah,
question for you.
sure.
Sanskriti, if you had to describe what is a good mental health, how would you describe it?
A good mental health,
Yes.
actually, it's more like if you can
Yeah.
describe a good physical health, right?
Yeah. I
Like,
know that
no
everyone has a
person can say
different,
this thing, right?
everyone has a different meaning for it.
Yes, exactly. But the thing is, as we say in physical health as well, when a person is feeling calm, right? When they're feeling a peace in themselves, when they're feeling their life is normal right now, right? It's not chaotic, it's not, something which is bothering them so much. That is when you have a good mental health, right? Plus, on this note, I would definitely say this thing that having a chaotic situation does not mean that you do not have a good mental health, right?
Yeah.
True.
It's just you need to work on it. That's all you need, nothing else. But yes, good mental health, I would say, is the situation when you feel that you are at ease and that you are yourself and that it's a normal world around you. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Anything you would like to add?
Sure.
Anything?
So it's very well quoted. I don't remember the exact quote, but it's a very well known statement in the mental health that says that good mental health is not just absence of bad mental health, or good mental health is not just absence of not having mental health issues that are so broadly categorized or so specifically mentioned in DSM. But a good mental health is being mentally healthy, and that means being able to tackle issues and not and self love and not blaming yourself. So as she said, it is very subjective, but to have a good mental
Yeah.
health is being able to build that strong resilience and being able to accept things and being able to know that even if you don't feel your best, in those cases as well, if you are able to approach someone for help, even that is a big sign of good mental health because you are aware of yourself and your health. So that's what I wanted to add.
Mm. You guys described it like greatly. Never, if someone asked me how to describe it, I would have never be able to describe it like you guys. So, let's move on to the next question. What are the major mental health issues that people are facing in India right now after the COVID pandemic and the whole lockdown thing? So,
Okay,
Sanskriti, why
so
don't
I'll go
you?
first. Okay,
Yeah, I
sure.
want it. Yeah, let's go from bachelor to master.
Good one.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, in COVID, the biggest problem we all faced, like not only Indians but the entire world, what faced is the quarantine,
Yes.
the feeling of being alone and
Hello.
in a caged house. That's what we all went through. And people have fought with anxiety, depression. These are, the big words, but there are other things as well included with them, which hardly people talk about. But there are mental issues which people went through because of being alone or being with toxic people around them, because they're not getting enough space to talk about, you know enough space to vent things out. That's why people in social media are so much open about things nowadays. Because of this only, the trend of hashtag mental health has been really
Yes.
trending nowadays, because people don't know where to express themselves. So social media is helping them in this way. So in COVID, many people have come forward, but the mental health issues remain the same, even increased as well, because of people being alone most of the time. What do you think, Nishta?
Absolutely, I really do agree with the terms that she used. And if we read articles, of course, there are certain things that have been observed during this pandemic and past, like post pandemic, is people while the whole COVID scenario was going on, experienced an extreme sense of worry, fear, what we tend to,
Mm,
diagnose as
yeah.
anxiety, the extreme sense of anxiety of getting COVID-19, like being affected by COVID-19, being positive, anxiety of their family members or not recovering, the different things, or anxiety of even what if things don't go back to normal, or what will I do when everything goes back to normal? How will I, adapt to the new normal? So all of these things caused a lot of anxiety in people. Another thing that was observed is how toxic families were for each other. So there's something like toxic households where people did not really feel comfortable living with their families, because all throughout their life, at some point or the other, one or the other household member or the family member would not be in the house 24/7. The father, if father is the toxic one, he would go, for his work, he would come back in the evening. So that would give the other family members some mental space. If the child was a disobedient one or the problematic one in the family, they would go to school. So
Mm,
at some point or the other, one or the other member of the family, the toxic member, would not be at home, and the other family member would have a mental space to breathe.
mm,
This scenario, everyone was in the house 24/7. So there were a lot of issues that caused suicidal tendencies, depression, and there's another mental disorder which is known as OCD.
yes.
Now, people, when I was doing my bachelor's, which unfortunately had to end online, so that is when this whole thing came up, and we had this discussion in one of our lectures that how OCD is going to be something that is going to be a very significant disorder during this pandemic. Now, there are different types of OCDs. One of the very well-known OCD is the OCD with cleanliness. So now, since people were asked to, keep washing their hands, washing everything, keeping everything sanitized, those people with OCD, they felt a bit relaxed, or they felt a bit normal because everyone else was doing it. Now, after it ended, the people who had OCD, they would again feel uncomfortable. They would feel too targeted. There would be too much attention on them, because when the whole pandemic was going on, everyone was doing the same thing. So their stress levels were not as high as everyone else, because they were not the prime focus of attention. Now again, they will be. So people with OCD are again going to suffer a lot because of this whole new normal thing. People also have
Mm,
post-traumatic disorder, that is like PTSD, because of course it was a global pandemic. A lot of people lost a lot of people had a lot of traumatic incidences at home, in the hospitals, outside, the ones who could not really have good sustainable living. So
mm,
that gives people PTSD. And there's something like prolonged grief. People who
mm,
lost their family members, now they would have to undergo grief, and that's not something that goes away once a pandemic ends. Unlike physical health,
mm,
when we talk
yeah.
about mental health, it doesn't just disappear. It stays at the back of your head. And for some people, it stays for a really long time. So these are a lot
Mm,
of mental health issues that we saw
mm,
during and pandemic, or we are observing even now. So I
yeah.
would really request
Mhm.
everyone to be patient with people around them. Just because everything would just physically open or seem to be normal does not mean people's lives are going to go back to old normal so soon. So that's what I would
Mm.
like to say.
I Yeah. So have seen some of the symptoms of major mental health in my friends, and it is mostly it's overthinking. Overthinking causes them to think about the stuff that doesn't matter, like their ex, they're like their best friend, like why she doesn't love me, and they'll be like why she doesn't love me, I'm so much better than her ex, and etc. And they start to overthink, and then they like get into a depression. This shows the sign of depression. So I think that overthinking is also a major problem after the COVID. Yeah, before it was also, but after the COVID, it's increased because of the people spending time, lots of time alone in their room. no, with no one them around another. It's because of the social media, the life, life. Okay, why my life is not like them, and comparing themselves. So
But Prince, I would like to say in this is that the overthinking about the stuff is not what is, making them a hazard or prone to mental health issues. But the thing is about a pattern, right? When you start overthinking about one thing, it does not matter that much. But when you associate
let
something
with
with overthinking and it becomes a pattern for you, that whenever you have a problem, you overthink about it a lot and you are just into that overthinking and you're procrastinating about something, then that is when it becomes an issue for you,
yes,
right?
I
That
have
is what
seen.
people are doing nowadays.
Yes, I have seen that quite a lot. So how would you say overthinking can affect a person? Yeah,
Who would go first?
as I
Yeah,
said, bachelor to master.
it has to be you.
Yeah, it's not like
Okay,
that.
so I have to start.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not like that. It's a compulsory. You have to speak first. Whoever has the answer, it can go like, yeah. So
We
I
just
think
don't
it
want to
that.
clash. That's all.
Exactly. Oh, that's okay. You may
So
go
yeah.
first.
So okay, cool. Let's start with the Nista.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. So as you asked, the
So
overthinking part. See again, like Sanskriti said, it becomes an issue when there is a pattern. It becomes a consistent habit, and it starts affecting your relationships with people or your health. So in those particular scenarios, overthinking becomes an issue. Otherwise, overthinking in positive, like either ways, anything in excess is not good.
yeah.
When you're too positive, even that is toxic positivity, like we say in psychological terms. When you're too negative, that leads to a lot of, distress and discomfort, which is problematic for you as well as people around you. So that's my take on it, I think.
Yeah. So Nista, can you elaborate what's the toxic positivity? Even
Sure. So
furthermore.
toxic positivity is it's basically a concept in layman's term. It's a concept where you only try to push people to think positive. You keep talking about all the good things, or you keep pointing everyone to be positive. So if someone complains to you about this XYZ issue that they're having,
Mhm,
you ask them to be thankful about everything else that they have, even if it
mhm.
is the most basic of things, because apparently gratitude, so it does, gratitude has
Yeah.
its own benefits, but it depends on what you're talking, it depends on the context, it depends on the severity of the person. If I tell you that I had, so yeah, I lost my mother this year. If I'm talking about that to someone, and if
Mhm.
the person tells me, but at least you have your dad, at least
Yeah.
you have your sister, at least you have food to eat. Now that's toxic positivity, because they're asking you to be grateful for other things, even though you have lost a major part of
Yeah.
your life. And it can be based on any other issue as well. So if someone is telling that they're really stressed about this exam, you telling them that it's okay because everyone else is stressed. It's okay because it doesn't make sense for you to be stressed just because it's one paper. You wanting to support them, calming them down,
Mm.
is a very different thing from forcing them to be positive about the other factors that are in front of them. Now that's toxic positivity.
Okay. Thank you for the explaining that. So
Sure.
my next question is my question is what are the major difference between uh, depression and anxiety, and does they have anything in similar? Sanskriti.
Finally got the chance. So you asked the difference between anxiety and depression, right?
Yeah, but before we do that, why don't you explain what is the depression and what is the anxiety for the viewers?
Yeah, obviously. So anxiety is more like an irrational fear or something you have for something, right? It
Yeah,
can be
like
positive and
when you try
negative.
something new, you have fear
Yes.
of,
Like
just
that's
like
more like a
just
positive anxiety, that one you were feeling in the starting
yeah,
of this
start before the
podcast.
podcast. Yes.
So that was more like a positive one because it motivates you, it gives you an energy to go with that thing. But anxiety, which affects us more, is when it gets to a level of, causing trouble in our ways. So that's more like a fear inside you, the feeling of worry when you feel about something and it stops you. So that is the negative anxiety is all about. And depression is a really, it's like an umbrella term of many mental issues. So for a layman, depression is more like feeling sad, right?
Okay.
Nowadays, people are just using words depression as
Yeah.
the feeling of sadness, as a feeling of loneliness, as a feeling of feeling like to die. People
Yes.
use it so normally, but depression is actually a really strong and heavy word. And depression is about a feeling of feeling low in mood. And when you have that constant mood of feeling low, and when you feel like that you are not doing anything, you don't want to do anything, you feel demotivated, you feel low on energy, you feel lonely. So there are many things included which leads to depression. And again, that depression also have many kinds. So, it's a really big line. It's a big chain of mental issues. So the difference you asked is, it's in the definition itself, that anxiety and depression are different kinds. But yes, anxiety can lead to depression. Okay. Anxiety is a part of depression.
Okay.
But the thing is, anxiety is curable. Like in a really early stage, you can see that you're feeling anxiety and you can, put more thought on that and get rid of it easily. But depression is what you find out later in the later stages, that you have a mild depression or a chronic depression or a clinical depression. You know, you got to know about it really late in your life when you are really prone to it. So I would say that's the difference.
Thank you for explaining it as so much simply, so people like me can understand. Yeah. So
Exactly.
yeah. So Nista, anything else you want to add?
No, except that there are different types of depression. So, so I think people should, like you said, the way they use it so easily, to know that you have this particular disorder, you should get diagnosed from a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and not self-diagnose yourself just because you read it somewhere, or just because we are giving you a brief about it on a podcast. That's not a
Yes.
way to diagnose yourself. It's not a
Mm,
checklist.
yes.
Explaining what it is in brief, so you might, get a hint or insight of, oh, this can be an issue. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you for adding your insights. So yeah, Nista, you don't know about my story of my first ever podcast. Not a podcast, because you know the story of my first ever podcast. How much anxious I got that I had to do intro 4 times. So yeah. So well, it's a story of my first ever stand up. So it was in my college, and there was supposed to be a 300 people, and I got so much scared. I I have written the whole script of 2 pages, and I wasn't able to sleep at that night. I called my friend who is doing the stand up for quite some time, and he told me, just don't be scared, go on the stage and your fear will be disappear and everything. And I was like, man, I don't I don't even remember my jokes. Even I wrote it on the pages. I cannot do that. He told me, just take the page with you on the stage. So the day came, and after in 10 minutes I had to go on the stage to perform. And then I realized I don't remember any of my jokes. I was so scared. I ran to the backstage. I had a paper in my pocket, so I was lucky, and I asked the anchor to give me a pen. I want I want to write down everything I remember. So I wrote down this I wrote down everything I remember. Then I added something, and then when I'm so scared at that moment. So I asked the person who was handling, like, turn off the lights, turn off the light. I don't want to see their faces. I don't care if they laugh or not. Don't laugh. If they are gonna laugh, I'll hear them laugh. I don't want to see their faces. And I was supposed to, from other end to the main where the mic was, I was supposed to run, and I came there and I slipped. I was that nervous. Then so the faculties were sitting at there, and the light was turned off. I didn't care, so I was like, yeah, forget it. Just forget it. I started speaking and started speaking, and then before I knew, everything was over, and I was like, yeah, I survived. Why I was so scared? Why I wasn't able to sleep at the whole night? Why I called my friend at 2 a.m. in the morning? So,
How do you feel about it now?
yeah, actually, I have a second show on the 5th December.
Nice.
Yes, that's so. First is very scary. As a Nistha, as Sanskriti said, is the anxiety is the when you do something new. That's a positive anxiety, right? That was the term.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I was feeling the positive anxiety because I was doing the stand-up for the first time in front of that many people. Yeah, and now
But congratulations, you survived it. So it's a great
yeah,
thing.
That's right.
even audience loved me. Yeah, survive plus that. Yeah,
Obviously,
that
they
was a
did.
bonus. That was a bonus. So after the performance, my one of my professor from the MBA, he was also there. He came to me and said, "Wow, you have such a great confidence, man. You weren't scared of people, and you were fumbling and everything." And I was like, "Sir, आपको क्या पता अगली रात किसको फोन करा था मैंने?" And suddenly my friend came in. He was like, "Sir, क्या बात कर रहे हो आप?" And he told me that he said everything. He repeated everything what he said, and he was like, क्या सर, वो रात के 11 बजे ये मुझे फोन करा था कि भाई मुझे डर लग रहा है. अरे यार चुप हो जा. So let's
So
move on.
that's the basic
Yeah.
difference between nervousness and
Yeah.
anxiety. I think we can say that.
And that's why you are here to tell them apart. So I had a question. Let's move on. अरे यार चुप हो जा. So let's
So
move on.
that's the basic
Yeah.
difference between nervousness and
Yeah.
anxiety. I think we can say that.
And that's why you are here to tell them apart. So I had a question. And let's move on to the next question. That's stress can cause depression and anxiety.
I'm sure they can lead to both, because anxiety, like Sanskriti mentioned, is an irrational fear or excessive worrying about anything. So when you're too stressed about something, you do feel anxious. When we say depression, like we mentioned, depression has different types in it. So stress can lead to depression, yes, if it is a persistent stress, and the intensity of it keeps increasing and everything kind of becomes very pessimistic around you. In those cases, yeah, it can lead to depression.
Yeah, so Sanskrit, I had a question for you. How does overthinking and social media plays part in causing a depression?
I'm sorry, your voice is lacking. Can you repeat? Sorry.
Nistha, why don't you repeat the question?
I'm really
Okay.
sorry.
That's all right, I guess. Yeah, he's asking how does social media play a part in overthinking, and how do people feel depressed because of social media?
Ah, a great question, I would say, Prince.
I'm honored.
So yes, the answer to that question is, the advertisement of something. If you can see Instagram nowadays, the reels, and just saying Instagram nowadays are introducing many videos or reels, which is many people are doing makeup videos or different kind of videos. I'm just taking an example right now.
Yeah.
And the girls in different places are watching that video, or the boys are doing the same, and they're comparing themselves to them. right? To the perfect models, to the edited Instagram pictures. And they are thinking that they are not enough, right? That maybe they need something more. If you can see, people are trying so much nowadays to fit in that social media criteria. There is a proper, term for this, which is called like Instagram model face, right? Where the person feels that the proper face of a person should be like the Instagram model faces. So
Oh,
that's how much our mind is getting triggered by the social media. How much we are comparing ourselves with them, and we are feeling anxiety because of it. We are feeling we are not enough, which leads to, self-hatred,
yeah.
which is leading to anxiety, which is leading to that depressive mood, right? Which later on leads to depression. And this is how it's going a lot nowadays. Because every time you see, I don't think so, people of our age is n- like ever off their phones.
Yeah.
Every time they're watching something, they're going through something. Either it can be Instagram, Twitter, anything. They are reading all different kind of stuff. None of them is knowledgeable. I can agree on that none of it is
No.
knowledgeable. They're reading, hatred comments. They're watching different kind of videos. They're not understanding a single word of it, but they are thinking that it's on trend, so it means something, right? That it is really important, which is making them feel that maybe they don't know enough. It's making them feel dumb, right? So again, it comes to the whole point of feeling not enough, leading to self-hatred, and later on leading to mental disorders.
Thank you for explaining it. And is there anything
That's all.
else you want to add?
No, I think she covered it all, except that another thing that is part of this whole social media issue is the kind of FOMO that it creates. That everybody is looking at someone or the other person and feels like their life is better than mine, and then they have this fear of missing out, what we call FOMO. The whole FOMO thing has increased gradually because of the involvement of people in social media. So that's all that I wanted to add. I think she covered it all pretty much.
So even I have deleted Instagram quite a bunch of time because it made me feel like what the hell I'm doing with my life. Yeah. Like before Corona, everything I had planned, like in 5 years I'll be in Australia and everything. I'll have my MBA degree and I'll be in Australia. I get my MBA from University of Melbourne and everything. But then Corona hit and everything went to downhill. Then I had to then everything and once in a while there is something we see on social media that makes us feel like what the hell we are doing with our life. I know everyone who's watching this who has felt that. So social media is pretty much a good place and also a toxic place. There is a like I recently seen a reel in where there are like 5,000 comments and most of them were toxic. I was just thinking about what the creator might think, why I'm getting so much hate. Maybe that, okay, why I'm getting so much hate. Maybe that can cause them a depression. Everyone has
Nowadays,
a
Absolutely.
normal
yeah.
life
Yeah.
is, so much
Everyone has it
hindered
at
by
a point.
Instagram that
Yeah,
people feel
breaking
that
point. Like
having a
yeah,
normal life is
the
not good.
first
Hence,
great
I
point.
want to add
Yeah,
something having in this in my life is not
is
good.
not a good. Yes,
Is
sir.
that
That, yeah.
like if you don't have conflicts,
People
if you don't have
nowadays
something to
who have a
show
normal
off,
Of
life,
yes.
if you don't
a
have something
feeling that
of a
it's
prized
not their
possessions with
Instagram
you,
life.
that
Yeah.
means you are not good. Instagram is
Yes.
affecting just a second. So there is a thing in psychology which I read in 11th or 12th class, which are two types of self. There's a real self and ideal self. So real self is what you are, and ideal self is what you want to be,
To be.
right? It's a
Yeah.
normal stuff, like what I need to be in my life is what I would like to know, right? It should be on my basis. But nowadays, the ideal self is according to the social media,
Yes.
right? what the social media wants us to be is our
Yeah.
ideal self. And
Yes.
that's what we are becoming into.
Yes. Even when there is a, people see celebrities and be like, why I'm not like him? Why when I'm gonna get to live like him? For example, you have you guys heard of Dan Brazilian? Dan Brazilian is a famous poker player. So he's known for showing off. He shares his lifestyle with a, with people through social media like Snapchat, Instagram, and he lives very glamorous life because once he was one of the richest poker player, and he had a, and from that he purchased a really great mansion and everything. He you know, he's he's partying with a famous supermodels and everything, and people watch him. His story will be like, why can't be I like him? So that creates a
Yeah, I
FOMO,
have
anxiety.
also seen him. Yes.
Yeah, now now
Yeah.
Sanskriti remembers. Yeah.
When you told me about the supermodels, I got it
Yes.
because I've seen a person who plays poker, and you know, the
Yes.
lifestyle he shows is you would want to,
Want to be like him.
play
Yes.
poker after that.
Yes. Yeah. He shows his lifestyle. He has a big muscles and everything. People be like he's a perfect body. He's a perfect life. He's a rich. Why can't be I like him? I want to be like him. So let's move on to the next question. Shall we?
Yeah.
So how depression and anxiety affects a person's day-to-day life?
In depression, how it affects a person's life, right?
Day-to-day life, like how it affects a
Yeah.
person with his job and how he cannot perform his day-to-day task, like
So
normal
if
things.
you know this thing, I got it. I got the question.
Yeah, that's why that's why you as the guest and I'm the
Yes.
interviewer.
I was saying, so the thing is about the mental disorders or mental issues. The thing, I know I'm fumbling a lot, but let's
That's
go again.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes. Mental disorders or mental issues, they have a prominent symptom of, disrupting our day to day life. That's how you know that you have a mental issue with you. So, anxiety and depression, being a mental issue, is about this only, that they affect our day to day life. As for example, when you wake up late, you get anxiety attacks
Yeah.
pretty quickly. Like, oh man,
When I'm late for the
I
college,
got
I'm
up
late
late.
for the
I have
job.
this thing to do.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So many of like you have an entire checklist in your head, and it disrupts everything, and you feel that anxiety attack inside you. You
Mm.
feel the build up, and you have that nervousness. You're sweating out. See all the symptoms of anxiety attacks, and that happens regularly after another, right? So that is how it affects you normally as well. Like in some cases you don't have to feel that anxiety, like while recording a podcast you don't have to feel that anxiety, right? It's a normal thing. You're talking to
Mm.
two people. It's not a
Yes.
big deal for some people, right?
Mm.
But for some it is anxiety provoking.
That's true.
But if it's a good anxiety, it does not matter. It's a good thing. It's motivating you. But if, just for example, if you are not able to record a podcast and you're sweating, you don't know what to do, right? You're feeling caged, you feel you are not able to breathe that nicely, right? If that thing is happening, that means something is happening in your body. It's telling you that you're having an attack right now. You're feeling a lot of anxiety right now. Because of what? Because of recording an podcast,
Yes.
right? So it's a normal thing, but you're feeling anxiety. This is disrupting your day to day functioning. That's how it happens with every single small thing. And that's how you know that you have a mental issue, right? That you have a anxiety, like a proper one, because it's affecting your day to day life. That's why.
Nistha,
That's all.
anything else you want to add?
Um, yes, like she said, in very brief. When us as psychologists, when we diagnose someone, we have this 4Ds criteria. We have, so if you fit in the 4D, that means we diagnose you with XYZ disorder. So that's it, I guess. And like you said, just so that people don't get confused, not everyone has an anxiety attack, but if you have anxiety disorder, then you might have major panic attacks. And that's what she's trying to tell you, that if you have a panic attack with even the smallest of the things, that's when you know that there's something not normal with you. So that's it.
I think I just found myself with two counselors. Yeah. Yeah, so Nistha is a master assistant, so she can legally perform after she's done with her master. And Sanskriti
Even
message
right
me.
now, I'm actually a counseling intern. So I
Yeah.
am taking clients right now. So
Yeah, so Nistha is now a legally counselor. And Sanskriti, when you are done with your master, hit me up.
I'll be graduating in this month or next month, most probably. So next year, I'll be starting my master's myself in counseling psychology. So that's all for that. After master's, I'll be able to practice counseling professionally.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's I know that. I know that. That's why I said when you are done with your master, then hit me up.
like in
Yeah.
2 years, most probably. So yeah.
Yeah. Even I'm a last year student of my BBA. So in 2 years, I'll be done with my MBA.
Congratulations.
Thank you. At least we are not like Nistha there. Online classes. Yeah, so we get to
True.
we get to study offline.
Yes.
Nistha is like, I'll kill you, bro. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so my next question is how depression is diagnosed? How depression is diagnosed, Nistha?
yes, like I mentioned, every disorder we have this every disorder has a separate criteria.
Yeah,
So we have this book,
let's
it's called the DSM. So the DSM has its own criteria, and every disorder is matched against it, and then we diagnose based on that. That's it. That's what
so
I say, that do not self-diagnose yourself, because it's way too complex, and we have to be sure shot before we tell someone that, oh, you have this particular disorder.
yeah, there is a different kind of therapy, like we have
Yes, I want
our
to add something in Nishtha's answer.
yeah. What? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to say that people usually see this thing that someone have some symptoms, and if they have the same thing, so they will have the same, you know, issue with
Hmm.
them. So to clear things out, every person is different. Every person's symptoms is different. The consequences are different, right? So if I am feeling stress over something and Prince is feeling stress over the same thing, it does not mean that we both have stress,
Yeah,
right?
True.
It does not
Absolutely.
mean the same thing.
That's an
Plus,
excellent
in
point. Yeah, I
diagnosing
agree.
a yes,
yeah,
in diagnosing a disorder, a counselor or a clinical counselor go through an entire criteria, a proper inventory, a questionnaire as such. Only then we are pretty sure, even that we are not 100% sure about the thing. We are pretty sure that you might have that, because you can't get into someone's head like that, right? We are not we are not Itachi, right, Prince?
yeah. Yes, we are not Italy. Yeah, we have to.
Yeah, we can't get into someone's head like that,
Yes,
you know
yeah.
that I'll know the disorders by that. So that's how it goes. So you cannot self assume by seeing someone else going through the same thing. So that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah. Lately, I've been reading this book called Ikigai. If you, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, yeah. Damn it, this blur thing. Yeah. But in
Well,
this, they were saying there are
Yeah,
different
go
kinds
on.
there are different kinds of therapy. Like we have our normal counselor therapy. There's a logotherapy. There's more morita therapy. There are different kinds of therapy. There are just people have a one concept in mind. Like there is a therapy. There is a therapist sitting right there in front of us. He'll ask about our history. He'll ask okay, what is wrong with us and everything. But it's not just a one kind of therapy. There is a different kind of. And this book Ikigai, it says every person, Ikigai, the word means the person's reason to wake up from the bed, and everyone has their own different Ikigai. And in logotherapy, Dr. Frankel used to ask them, what is your reason to live? And in our classical therapy, the therapist doesn't ask you a question like that. He just asks you, tell me something about yourself and everything. But the Dr. Frankel had approached something new. The Sanskriti. Now you go on. What you were saying earlier before, when you cut off my question.
I'm sorry, but I did not understand the question. I thought your question was what is logotherapy, but
No,
that
what?
is not.
No, not a logotherapy. I wanted this audience to know there are different kind of therapies. There is not just a one kind of therapy.
If you want, I can talk about it because I know a lot of therapies.
No, I just want to the audience to know there are different kinds of therapy. Why don't you just explain some of the therapies?
Yeah, so I would say on your note only that you spoke about logotherapy, right?
Yes.
So there are main 2 or 3 types of therapy who are the main domains, like psychodynamic, behavioral, and existential. So logotherapy comes in existential therapy, where the counselor looks for the purpose of life, right? In which the counselor's role is to show the person, regardless of anything, that what the purpose of their life is and how should they focus towards it more. In behavioral therapy, we look for how the faulty behavior can be changed. And in psychodynamic therapy, we focus on how the past things that we hold in ourselves, in our unconscious mind, can be cleared out. So these are the basic therapies, but apart from it, there are many therapies nowadays, like REBT, CBT. There are many therapies. People think that therapy is all about talking things, right?
Yes.
That the counselor will ask you, just how Prince said that,
Yeah.
how are you feeling today, right? That is not what therapy is all
Yes.
about,
Yeah,
right?
people think
Therapy is a
of therapy
broader
like
term.
just talking. Yeah, people think of therapy as just
Yes.
talking because of the movies. Movies has made, like in Lucifer,
Yes.
like the
I guess
devil.
this is the reason people don't take it that seriously.
Yes.
This is the reason for that. They just think that what the counselor will do.
Yes.
He or she will talk to us. That's all. That I can also do that, right?
Yeah. If you want
That's
to
a
talk,
normal thing.
yeah. If you want to give him a 5,000, give me 2,000. I'll talk to you. Yeah. People are
Exactly.
like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then why are there people who are pursuing psychology, who are pursuing counseling psychology like me, right?
Yeah.
Why are people doing PhDs in these kind of subjects? There is something, right?
Yes.
It's not
There
like
is
that
something.
in our exams we have to write what talking therapy is, right? I
Yeah.
will just ask the patient, how are you doing? And my
Yeah.
answer is closed.
Yeah.
That's now how it is, right?
Yeah. If it was that easy, yeah, everyone will be a therapist.
At this
Exactly. Why would anyone will do BBA, right?
Yeah. Why would anyone do BBA? Yeah. I'll just do
Exactly.
a bachelor's of psychology. Yeah. I'll get just what? How are you feeling, sir? And I'll get 100 marks.
Yeah.
Why the hell I would try to remember Maslow's need hierarchy theories when all I had to remember is, sir, how are you feeling today?
Exactly. Exactly.
So Nistha, you were saying something?
I was just saying that at this point that I would like to add that in India, to be a clinical psychologist per se, you have to do till MPhil. So unless you have an MPhil degree in your hand, you cannot be a clinical psychologist. So our field is that in extensive, it's
Yes.
that how do I say, detailed oriented and research oriented, that you have to have at least 6 to 7 years to be a beginner as a psychologist. So it's honestly not just undervalued, but also very disrespectful towards every psychologist, at least in India, when people just describe us as people who are, just who take too much money just to
Mm,
talk or to whatever they have notions for psychologists. I don't think it's just undervalued. I also think it's very disrespectful.
yes.
So this is what I just wanted to add.
Yeah, whenever someone says I am a psychiatrist, people will go like, yeah, you are a pagal hoga doctor. People will, the psychiatrist doesn't reserve the, you know, they doesn't get the respect. People don't give the psychiatrist the respect they gives to other doctors. Like they give a higher value to BHMS. Yeah, like, yeah,
But
he is a
just
doctor.
think that the psychiatrist, no, the clinical psychologist, that is a major part of psychology which gets a lot of value in India. Like the value we are talking about right now, right? Apart from it, forensic psychologist, sports psychologist, counseling psychologist, industrial organizational psychologist, they have a small margins. They're not even seen in
I tell
India's,
you,
job
yes,
descriptions.
I'll tell you something. In India, after my master's, if I want a job, there is no position of an industrial organization psychologist. So
Really?
my educational qualification has no value in this country because there is no position of a psychologist in India. In an MNC,
Exactly.
industrial or psychologist does not exist.
Wow,
It
and
is that bad in our country.
wow, and I thought my BBA degree doesn't have any value.
And mine is
Even
a
I
master's.
also, like, being a counseling psychologist, people just say, open a clinic.
Yeah,
But do they know how much it will cost?
yeah, that's the way. Yeah,
Seriously, for that, to have a value in my profession, I have to do PhD for
yes,
that. Because master's is my beginning level in counseling, which have no value. Like they just say, go to school. You can, counsel school children. That's the value I have after my master's,
wow,
after doing 5 years of study.
wow,
Including
That is the
dissertations,
thing.
internships, and everything that everyone else does.
yeah, including the internship projects and everything.
This
So,
can be a different podcast altogether about how undervalued we are. But like, let's
as-
go to the
We are
question.
venting about our
Yeah.
profession right now. Yeah.
oh, yeah, yeah, we can do that. Sanskriti, this question is for you. What is the most recent promising, uh, you know, development to treat a depression? To treat a depression.
Okay, yes. So to cure depression, the prominent and promising one, the most promising one is the most oldest one, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
That is, that's a kind of therapy which replaces your negative thoughts with your positive ones. That's how it works. But there are other therapies as well, like family therapy, or if it's a couple thing, so it's a couple therapy which happens, or REBT is also like the rational emotive behavioral therapy is also, which is, REBT, the rational emotive behavioral therapy, is also one of a kind of therapy which is used. So yes, but CBT is the most promising one, and it has been, people have been using CBT for a really long time, and it gave really good results for depression.
Okay, so I have this question for you, Nistha. So, how does a life after depression look like?
Okay, that's a very creative, out of the blue question.
Yeah.
Um, it looks different for everyone. It depends on how the person's life was prior to depression and when they were going through depression. So for some people, it gets a lot better than how it was before they were diagnosed with depression. For some people, it takes time for them to get back to normal because that whole phase becomes a very prominent part of them. It depends on the intensity of how depressed they were, and also depends on the period of time that they were diagnosed for. So yeah, it is obviously better. It when a person is depressed, one of the most um, experienced feeling is hopelessness. I won't call it a feeling, but they feel hopeless a lot. So one thing that gets a lot better after you are recovering or healing from your depression is you start feeling hopeful about life. You start seeing the good in things, and it obviously has a lot of good outcomes. Because of that, you become more motivated to do things. Because of that, you become more resilient. So that is how it feels to feel. It feels better and it feels hopeful.
Yeah. So thank you guys for coming to the podcast, and
Thank
everyone,
you.
everyone,
Thank you for having us.
uh,
Exactly.
a pleasure was all mine. So everyone who is watching this, I'll link their Instagram page. Instagram. I'll link the Nista's YouTube channel in the description. Just check it out. These guys are amazing, and Nista's videos are amazing and informative. And Sanskriti page is also informative, and she does a live with a world-renowned international therapist. So do follow both of their pages. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.